With only 5 games left in this championship campaign, it only feels inevitable that this video had to be done, especially as I am of course a Burnley fan. I've got a vested interest in this. So let's get into the championship campaign in terms of the playoffs, the top 2, and of course the relegation fight. Let's get into the main one that we're all thinking about here, the title race. Now every single year there's always a good title race. Last year we thought it was probably the best we may ever get, with Southampton, Leicester, Ipswich and Leeds all fighting for it. Southampton faded off in the end, somewhat similar in a way to what Sunderland have this year, where they're kind of there but not really, and it's the main top 3 fighting for that top 2 spots. And in the last couple of weeks, just like last year, all the teams are facing the pressure where not in one match week has all 3 teams won for about the last 10 match weeks now. Every single match week there's always one of the top 3 have dropped points, or even 2 of them, and now the heat is really coming on here, where Leeds were 1.7 points ahead after beating Sheffield United. Now as of last weekend we're 3rd place. Now it's much more even now, but you can't really predict it as the championship is a championship and you don't know what will happen next. So comment down below your top 2 who will make the playoffs, who will win the playoffs, and your bottom 3 to be relegated. Like, subscribe, and Vizeh Designs for the best football prints, all made by myself. We cover, of course, every single club in the championship, and we have about 5, 6, even 10 prints for each club. Check it out. As it currently stands, Leeds top of the table by goal difference, level on points with Burnley with 85 points, and Sheffield United in 3rd place, 2 points behind. Now, Sheffield United, they've lost their last 2 games against what should be on paper winnable games, Millwall at home and Oxford United away. And then Burnley have been by far the most consistent side in the entire league, with only 2 losses all campaign compared to Sheffield United's 8, and which is a massive gap by the way, but draws is a massive factor in that, where Burnley have gone at this current stage 28 games undefeated, and that is why they are where they are right now. And Leeds, which most people say is the best team in the championship by quite some distance, had a chance to run away with the league and look like they're so far ahead where it's just predictable that they're just going to be clear by at least 5-6 points and no one can catch up. Well, Leeds had to do things the Leeds way, which they only won 1 game in the last 6 games. Now it's 2 wins in the last 7, where they lost to likes of Portsmouth away, dropping points at home to Swansea City, dropping points to QPR, dropping points to Luton Town, and the entirety of Twitter and Instagram was full of Joy Division love for tear us apart again. And what I love the most is that in the last 3 match weeks, there's been a new team on top of the table. Sheffield United beat Sheffield Wednesday, with top of the league going into international break, and we're feeling like with the likes of a Oxford and Millwall up next at home, that if they just win those 2 games, they can really stretch the lead on top of the table. They've lost both those 2 games. The next match week, Coventry City away for Burnley, a massive tough test. Every single team was away from home in that match week, and Oxford United beat Sheffield United, and Luton got a point to Leeds United, making Burnley top of the league for the first time in what feels like all season. And then Leeds, despite being 7 points ahead in 3rd place, wins what is probably their toughest game of the season now against Middlesbrough away, getting the win. Burnley against a relegation threatened Derby County got a 0-0 draw, and a shocking loss at home to Millwall for Sheffield United, meaning that every single match week you don't really know what's going to happen next, which is the beauty of the championship. So with 5 games remaining, this is how it looks like on paper. So in terms of who has the toughest fixtures, you would say it is definitely Burnley, I'd feel like, because the games previous to this were also quite tough. You know, Coventry and Bristol City were also thrown there as well, and they've done by far probably the best in terms of consistency. They've still got Norwich at home, that they can be tough. Watford away can also be a tough one, but a bit inconsistent. And then of course it's the main one, Burnley versus Sheffield United on Easter Monday, with only 3 games left to go in the season. This should very likely be the game that decides who at least confirms the top 2 spot. You feel like whoever wins that game should be home and dry at that stage to at least take one of the spots. In terms of the title race, that could be a different story. However, Burnley's got a good record against Sheffield United. This year they beat them 2-0 away from home. In the year prior in the Premier League, they also beat them both times. Smashed them, by the way, 5-0 at home in the first game, and also away from home was 4-1. Now, Leeds on paper should be probably the easiest games, but I don't really think it's as simple as that, as Oxford, they're in a deep relegation dogfight. So are Stoke in a deep relegation dogfight. Bristol City are in a deep playoff fight, and Plymouth could very likely be down already by the final day. It is very likely. However, if they still got something to play for, again, a team fighting for their lives on final day. So to put it on paper of the types of teams here, Burnley are the most consistent but not the most exciting. Leeds are the best team but may lack a bit of fight. Whereas Sheffield United are perfectly almost in the middle of these two teams, where they have the experience but they may not have the actual final third quality at times to really make games count. Therefore can be inconsistent at times, like Oxford United away, losing to Hull or losing to Millwall recently. So if you're asking me personally who I think will win the title, I think it will be Burnley, but that's because I'm a Burnley fan, and that is obviously something I'm going to say. But I think consistency is key. Sheffield United have shown on many occasions that they can just be poor. A sign of a good team is when you don't play well and you still win games, and that's not really happened for Leeds sometimes this year, which they don't play well, they just don't win games and they drop points, and they've been really poor. Consistency is key in the Championship, and I do believe when Burnley plays Sheffield United on Easter Monday, I think they still will win. I think that they will, because historically they've seemed to be the one that shows up in these kind of games. But I guess you just never know in the Championship, right? So if you're asking me, I would go Burnley first, Leeds second, Sheffield United third. Now it's into the playoff race. So Sunderland, they're already there. They're fine. They're so perfectly in the middle of the top three to the rest of the pack. It's quite funny. But Sunderland, they're there. We all know. Happy days. Now it's time for the playoffs. Now in theory, really, 5 teams can still be in the playoffs here in 5 games left to go. Bristol City are 5th place, Coventry are 6th, Middlesbrough 7th, West Brom are 8th, Millwall 9th, and Watford are 10th. Now Watford may be a big ask to imagine to be in playoffs, but they're only at this stage 6 points behind, and in the Championship, crazier things have happened. However, I guess you just never know this day and age. Realistically, you're looking at Bristol City, Coventry and Middlesbrough for realistically the only challenges in there. Millwall are in a good bit of form, so they may have a late surge, but I just think it should be too much of an ask for them personally. In this situation, you got to look at the form teams. West Brom, they've not even won in the last 5 games. They've really collapsed. Similar to what Blackburn have, they were even in that conversation. They've completely collapsed as well, which is common for them typically. And there's teams like Sheffield Wednesday that at one time had hopes that they could maybe be in that conversation. Again, just not having enough in the end. So Middlesbrough, Coventry, Bristol City are really the only teams I'm looking at here, and maybe Millwall. I love the idea of Bristol City being in the playoffs because they've been taking like forever to get anywhere close to this stage, and I even did a video about them being the most boring club because they always finish 13th or 14th. And this year, at one stage, around December, January, it looked like it was going to be that year. In January, they usually have a bit of hope that maybe it could be their year, and then they usually falter off in the end. This year, they actually have some hope here. They've beat Norwich at home, they beat Watford, they beat West Brom. They're winning their games against teams around them, which really matters. And with 5 games left to go, they're one of the most informed sides in the league. The main issue for Bristol City is that they've still got at least 3 really, really tough games. QPR are safe, so that should be maybe a good chance to win, but you can still see that being a draw. But they got Sunderland at home, they've got Luton away, fighting for their lives, and also Leeds away. In terms of their fixtures, it's not looking pretty for them, and I'd be really struggling to imagine they get too many points in that 5 games. Coventry have back-to-back tough games against Sheffield United and Burnley, losing both, but Pompey, last-minute winner for Patterson, absolutely incredible for them, and that could be what they need to really have hopes of being back in the conversation and securing a top 6 spot. But Coventry is in a similar situation. Every single team they're playing against have got something to fight for. Hull are fighting for their lives. West Brom is the only team which is a tough fixture, however they're just in no form right now. But then you got Plymouth away, fighting for their lives, Luton away, fighting for their lives, and Middlesbrough at home for the final day. That could be a beautiful... That could all go down to that final day at Coventry, where Coventry and Middlesbrough could be down to the wire for that final top 6 spot. And I cannot wait for that game. And then there's Middlesbrough that's been back in form. They're such a confidence-stricken team. At one stage, they were in 12th, I believe, or 11th in literally, I want to say 5 match weeks ago. And then it's so easy to get into some form and just fly up the table in the Championship. And now they've got that. Their fixtures, again, have similar teams. Millwall this weekend is a massive one. If Millwall beats Borough, they actually could be able to fight for the playoffs. But again, it's going to be a tough ask. Plymouth at home should be a good opportunity for them. And then Sheffield Wednesday away, Norwich at home, and Coventry away. I don't want to completely write off Millwall, but I just feel like I've seen this story before. So look, if you're asking me who I think will end up in the playoffs, I don't want to go against Bristol City here, but they've got some really tough games just like Coventry. And I'm looking at the teams, and I think I'm going to go for Coventry and Middlesbrough to be in the final 2 spots. I think Bristol City, that's still got Leeds, still got Sunderland, and I think even Luton away as well. I'm concerned. I would love nothing more than for Bristol City to get over the line here. I really do. But I'm looking at the fixtures here, and that's what I'm going for. Now we're going to go into the relegation battle. Plymouth are 5 points off Derby in 22nd place, so they're 5 points off with 5 games to go. It's not making easy reading for them. And as they got completely trumped by Swansea City away, after beating Norwich, having some hope, I don't think it's too little too late for them, unfortunately. Especially as they've still got Sheffield United, they've still got Middlesbrough, they've still got Coventry, they've still got Leeds. Realistically, it's game over unless they have some remarkable moments to try and stay up. And that has to start with beating Sheffield United this weekend. Please, this is your last moment. Beat them for my own sanity. Thank you. Luton, Cardiff, Derby, Stoke, Hull and Oxford and even Pompey can all still go down. There is still, how many teams is that? That's 8 teams that could still go down with 5 games left to go, that you can imagine them all going down. Only 3 points separates Cardiff in 22nd to Pompey in 17th. All these teams can realistically go down. Only one win for an Oxford or Pompey can maybe make them be too far ahead. But if they keep losing games, they could be easily dragged into it. Right now, you need teams that are in form, and Derby are probably in the best form of all these sides. They won 3 in a row. They did have a poor defeat away at Swansea, but they did draw to Burnley at home. So Derby probably in the best form right now, maybe even staying up. This weekend, Pompey beat Derby is a nice one. Derby beat Luton is another great one. Derby beat Hull, Derby beat Stoke. Realistically, it's all in these teams' hands for the most part to try to stay up, as most of them are playing against teams around them. I think on paper for Luton, it could be a bit too little too late. They simply have to win their next 2 games against Blackburn and Derby to have any hope. As with Bristol City and Coventry, who they are at home for both those games, it's going to be a tough ask. And then Cardiff, which I feel like, I swear Cardiff was looking like they were safe at one stage, but it just get dragged down into it. They've won 1 game in what appears to be their last 7, 8. Like, honestly, I can't tell you a team other than Plymouth that I'm confident will probably go down. I think Plymouth has got too much to do, and unless they beat Sheffield United this weekend, I think it's too little too late for them. So I actually cannot tell you who I think is staying up. Stoke, by the way, can actually really go down. I'm really concerned for Stoke City. They had a seriously big chance to win against Luton this weekend, dropping points, conceding 90 when it goes to Coventry, to Millwall, to Luton. They seem to always concede late goals and just can never see a game out. And they've got 2 really tough games, Leeds away, Sheffield United at home. I mean, they've got to beat Cardiff this weekend. If they don't, like, they're in trouble. I do like Hull, and I think they will have enough to stay up in the end, as they've shown themselves on occasion against, let's say, the likes of Sheffield United, Sunderland away. Things can just, they've won against both those teams. Millwall away, got a win there. They're just a weird team, I feel. So if you're going to ask me right now, which 3 teams do I think are going down from the Championship this year, I'll say Plymouth 24th, because I just think there's too many tough games and it's too little too late for them, unfortunately. But still, try and beat Sheffield United. That'd be fantastic, boys. The next team, I generally don't know who to say here. You know what I see? I see Cardiff versus Oxford United as like the game for me. Whoever loses that game, I think will go down. I don't know. I'm gonna say Cardiff 23rd and 22nd. If it is a draw this weekend, I'm gonna go Stoke City. I feel like they're similar to, let's say, a Birmingham, which you feel like they're too big to go down, or like, oh, they've got enough quality, they'll stay up. But sometimes it's not as simple as that. I can see Stoke City going down this year. I've just got this feeling that all these years of just pathetic transfers, the philosophy is just all over the place. I think the collection of just non-stop bad decisions will pay the price. I can see Stoke City going down this season. If they do not win against Cardiff or Sheffield Wednesday, then they've got Leeds and Sheffield United back-to-back, coming down to the final day away at Derby. They've got to beat Cardiff, or they've got to beat Sheffield Wednesday at home. Otherwise, for me, they're down. If they don't get 1 win in those 2 games, I think they're down. So that's why I'm a Stoke City. They've got to win those games, and I can see it being a draw. I can see Sheffield Wednesday getting a result away, because they're just that kind of team away from home. They're a good team away from home, Sheffield Wednesday. Like, they're 5th best in the league. So that's my thoughts. Am I going to be wrong? Yes, I'll definitely be wrong, but that's just where my mind's at with this. So yeah, comment down below your thoughts on the top 2. Who's going to win the playoffs? Oh, God, I didn't even do that. Who's going to win the playoffs? If Burnley doesn't make it into the top 2, I'm going to say Burnley playoffs because I'm a Burnley fan. Of course, I say that. But I think in terms of how Burnley play, again, we've not lost in the last 28 games. Defensively, you're remarkable. So we're like the perfect on paper playoff team, which just doesn't concede goals and they're much more tough to play against. So if Burnley do not make it into the top 2, you would say Burnley is probably the best fitted team to be in the playoffs. So if it is Burnley in top 2, and it's, let's say, the teams that I said, Sheffield United, Sunderland, Coventry, and Middlesbrough, I would love to see a world where I see Sunderland to win it. I want to see Sunderland to win it. It'd be amazing, but that's just based on my just general what I want more than what I think. If Burnley's in playoffs, Burnley will win it based on the tactics of the team and the mood of the team. If it's Sheffield United or Leeds, I think it'd be Sunderland. That may make no sense, but we vibe. Comment down below your thoughts. I'll see you next time. See ya.